The NFL world just shifted on its axis, and the ripple effects are heading straight for Big D with a force we haven't seen in years. The Miami Dolphins have officially hit the detonator on their roster, releasing Bradley Chubb and Tyreek Hill in a move that has sent shockwaves from South Beach all the way to Frisco. We are breaking down why the Cowboys need to be on high alert for a defensive game-changer, the truth about the Tyreek Hill rumors, and why one of our own players is being hyped up with stats that frankly don't pass the eye test. If you want to stay ahead of the game with the most passionate Cowboys coverage on the internet, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to join our community right now. I hope you're strapped in, because today feels like the start of a brand new era in the NFL off-season. We woke up to the news that the Miami Dolphins are essentially lighting their roster on fire to save their financial future, and for a team like the Dallas Cowboys, this is exactly the kind of chaos we should be looking to exploit. The headline of the morning, reported by Jordan Schultz and later confirmed by multiple outlets, is that two-time Pro Bowler Bradley Chubb is officially being cut. At 29 years old, turning 30 this June, a premier edge rusher is hitting the open market as an unrestricted free agent. But he wasn't alone in that exodus. The Dolphins also parted ways with superstar wide receiver Tyreek Hill, veteran offensive guard James Daniels, and receiver Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. In one fell swoop, Miami cleared out over $50 million in cap space. This wasn't a football decision, in the traditional sense, it was a desperate housecleaning by a team that had backed itself into a corner. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of what this means for our Cowboys. We know the story by now, our defense has flashes of brilliance, but the depth at edge rusher is, to put it bluntly, terrifyingly thin. We've seen the speculative links between Dallas and Bradley Chubb for months, back when it would have required a massive trade package. But the game has changed. You don't have to give up a first-round pick anymore. You don't have to negotiate with a stubborn front office in Miami. You just have to pick up the phone and convince a guy who has 48 career sacks that the star is where he belongs. It's a rare opportunity to snag a Tier 1 talent for just the cost of a contract, especially when your current depth chart features names like Donovan Ezeraku, James Houston, and Isaiah Land. Look, I like those guys as developmental pieces, but are you really comfortable going into a championship window with that as your primary rotation? We don't have the luxury of being choosy right now. We need impact, and we need it yesterday. Of course, with a name like Bradley Chubb, there are always going to be, buts. People will point to the fact that he missed the entire 2024 season with a torn ACL. They'll point to his 2025 regression where his pressure rate dipped to 12.2%. I hear those concerns, I really do. But let's look at the context. Even in a down year coming off a massive injury, Chubb still paced the Dolphins with 8.5 sacks. His career average pressure rate is right around 12%, and when he's fully healthy, like we saw in 2023 when he had 11 sacks and led the league with 6 forced fumbles, he is a nightmare for opposing quarterbacks. If you can get that kind of production on a veteran-friendly deal, you take that 100 times out of 100. It's about the floor versus the ceiling, and right now, the floor of our current edge room is in the basement. Question of the day, with Bradley Chubb officially hitting the open market, is he the missing piece this defense needs, or are you too worried about his history with ACL injuries to commit the cash? Tell me exactly why or why not in the comments below, I'm reading every single one. While we're talking about those Miami cuts, we have to talk about the cheetah. Tyreek Hill hitting the market is the kind of news that stops the sports world. He's an 8-time Pro Bowler, a 5-time All-Pro, and arguably the most dangerous weapon in the history of the league. But before anyone starts photoshopping him into a Cowboys jersey, we need a reality check. Hill is 31, turning 32 in March, and he is coming off a truly brutal leg injury, a dislocated knee and a torn ACL sustained early in the 2025 season. His status for Week 1 is doubtful at best. Beyond the health, there is the locker room dynamic. We already have CeeDee Lamb, and we have the high-octane personality of George Pickens. Do we really want to add Tyreek Hill to that mix? History shows us that when veteran speedsters of his caliber start dealing with major injuries, things can get Antonio Brown-ish very quickly. I'd much rather see the front office invest that money into a long-term future with Pickens than chase the ghost of what Tyreek Hill used to be. Sometimes the best moves are the ones you don't make, and this feels like a classic trap. Now, let's shift gears to something that has been absolutely driving me crazy today. I was scrolling through the latest from Pro Football Focus, and they named Sam Williams as the top growth player among all defensive ends in the league. Their justification: they claim he had a sub-40 grade in the first half of the season and then magically jumped to an 86 grade from week 10 onward. They're calling him the most improved and acting like he's turned a corner into superstardom. But I'm looking at the tape, and I'm looking at the math, and folks, it just doesn't add up. If you actually dive into the week-to-week grading for Sam Williams, he had exactly one game above that 86 mark. It was a fantastic 94. One performance against the Eagles, and hey, credit where it's due, he was great that day. But his next highest grade was a 76. How on earth does one great game and a bunch of average ones equate to an 86 overall average for the half season? That's not how math works. It feels like a flaw in the grading system where one splashy performance is being used to mask a lot of inconsistency. When you look at the raw production, the improvement narrative falls apart even further. In the back half of the season, Sam Williams actually played fewer snaps. His pressure rate dropped to below 9%. To put that in perspective, we were just calling Bradley Chubb's 12% concerning. A sub-10% pressure rate for an edge defender in this league is quite frankly, unacceptable. We've been waiting for the Sam Williams breakout for 4 years now. He's been a penalty king, he's been inconsistent against the run, and he just hasn't developed into the reliable starter we were promised when he was drafted out of Ole Mississippi. If he wants to go play for Dan Quinn and try to resurrect his career elsewhere, I'm all for it. I wish him the best, but I'm ready to move on. We need real, proven production, not just PFF grades that don't match the eye test. Does it make sense to keep banking on potential when we have an opportunity to bring in a veteran who has actually done it on the biggest stages? The Cowboys are at a point where they can't afford to be sentimental. We saw the Dolphins make the hard, cold business decisions today. They moved on from icons like Tyreek Hill because it was what the future of the franchise required. Dallas needs to have that same level of ruthlessness. If we aren't exploring a guy like Bradley Chubb because we're worried about a compensatory pick or because we want to see if Sam Williams can finally figure it out in year 5, then we aren't serious about winning. The defense is the heartbeat of this team, and right now, that heartbeat needs a jolt of electricity. Whether it's the 8.5 sacks Chubb put up last year or the leadership he provides in the room, he represents an immediate upgrade. We have to be aggressive. We have to stop playing the what-if game with players who haven't shown they can stay on the field or stay out of the penalty box. This off-season is about closing the gap between being a good team and being a championship team. The clock is ticking. The new league year is right around the corner on March 11th, and the board is starting to move. Miami has made their play. Now the question is, what is Jerry Jones going to do? Are we going to sit on our hands and watch these impact players sign with our rivals, or are we going to finally take the swing that puts this defense over the top? I know what I'd do. I'm looking for every advantage possible, and right now, the Dolphins just handed the rest of the league a gift. It's up to us to make sure the Cowboys are the ones who unwrap it. We've covered the cap savings, the injury risks, and the questionable analytics. But at the end of the day, football is about who can win their one-on-one matchups when the game is on the line. I've seen Bradley Chubb do it. I haven't seen our current rotation do it consistently enough. It's time to stop talking about potential and start talking about production. The 2026 season is going to be defined by the moves made in the next few weeks, and I for one am ready to see this team take a real stand.